Hey everyone, this is Kieran from Eccentric Physio. Today's exercise is about building some internal rotation or external rotation into the shoulder in a closed kinetic chain. So that just means that my arm's going to be contacting the ground. There's a lot of more traditional exercises where we've got bands or weights and we're doing these types of movements, and they're really good. We've got some videos for them if you want to find out some more. But this is about, well, what if I have a closed kinetic chain situation, not open kinetic chain? And you might find that the range you've been trying to get in an open kinetic chain opens up a bit easier in the closed kinetic chain. So if you had a shoulder injury, you got a loss of range through your shoulder, or you feel like there's still some weakness to work on, then this would be a great exercise for you. So when we're thinking about internal rotation and external rotation of the glenohumeral joint, so that's this guy here, that ball and socket, or more of a dish than a socket, this kind of shallow sort of dinner dish, is that it has a bias towards internal rotation with certain shoulder blade positions. And then the external rotation positions are a little more biased with different shoulder blade positions. So what are those positions? If I protract my shoulder blade, so by protraction, that means that it's going forward, it's wrapping around my rib cage this way. Then as I go and reach and reach and reach and I protract, my shoulder blade's going to start to elevate a little bit, and it's biased with internal rotation. If I try to externally rotate here, I haven't got as much range, and that's because I'm allowed more range into internal based on some length tension relationships of some muscles around the shoulder. But the opposite then is true for the external rotation. So if I retract my shoulder blade and depress it or pull it down, so going this way, down, and then backwards retraction, that's going to couple with external rotation. So going this way. If I were to try and protract and elevate and externally rotate, it's pretty tricky. Like I just can't get there. It's not as much, but as soon as I come into here, I've got all this other range to play with through the shoulder. So how do we bias those in a closed kinetic chain? If we're going to protract, then what we need to do is something like a plank. And so if I wanted to improve my internal rotation of my shoulder, I could do a plank and put my arm into an internally rotated position, right? So how I would start is, let's get this way. So if I'm here, this is where most people are going to hang out in their plank. That's fine. And look, if you haven't got this problem, it's going to be easy. So if you're doing this, you're like, it's not really doing much. Go to maybe some of the open kinetic chain exercises and load it up. Throw some weight on there. But for the closed kinetic chain, it's about more of probably regaining some mobility here. So if I come into this position here, internal rotation, and then I come up into my plank or just onto my knees. So it could be like a knee plank like this, or a full plank. So if I'm into this position, then when I come up, it's going to couple with that protraction. And I can do this on both sides, or I could just do it on the side I'm working on. And now I can use my feet to kind of work my way around it and get into that internal rotation some more. But the idea being that by protracting, it's going to be a little bit easier to get into this internal rotation. Come to the other side, and I'm still pushing away. I'm trying to protract, right? So I got to push the ground away from me. For external rotation, the retraction position is going to be a little bit more of a side plank. So I'll show you from front and back. So if I'm into here, if I have my elbow out like this, and then I push up, I'm going to be afforded a little bit more range. But it might be tricky to move once you're weight bearing. So go as far as you can, come up, and then just sit on it. And then you can move through a little bit of ranges and stuff. You can move into this way, hold. You can even do just a knee plank version. And hold, hold, hold. From the back, you might think, well, we're pushing the ground away, so there's some protraction. There is, But because we're in a little bit more of an abducted position, we're going to be a little more retracted through the shoulder blade. So my shoulder blade, there's the center of my spine there, and there's my medial border of my scap, so they're a little bit closer together. Whereas like a protraction, that's more like, that's like the width of my little finger and thumb. If I come into here, now we're coming back to like 3 fingers width. So I'm going to go out this way. It's going to get me into a little bit more of that retraction, and then lift up and hold. So those are your options. You can make them dynamic options by moving in and out like we said, but this is a nice closed clinetic chain option for if you're really just not getting those range increases. It might be that you need some torso stiffness and some of that shoulder blade coupling to really get that last bit of range. If you like this video, then please hit like below. Otherwise, to check out more of our content in the future, you can subscribe to our channel by clicking our logo over here. And to check out our latest video, click up here.